Now let's take a look at how nodes work together. Here's a little diagram of how we would make a foggy shot. So a shot where we're adding fog. Maybe we have a shot of a house and we have an image of fog. We're going to put those together with a node called merge. That puts one image over another image. Then maybe we want to do some color correction to that whole image where that's already combined. Then maybe we want to zoom it in a little bit. And then we put this into the media out, which is going to put it into the edit page. That's how we would add a fog to a shot. And really, you don't even need the color correction or zoom. If you're just going to add fog, you could just put fog over the house shot in Fusion. Call it good. So let's get to work here in Fusion. In the context of the movie, there's actually supposed to be some smoke, kind of a smoke trail that goes across this sky. And so we're adding a really simple visual effect of some smoke, and we're going to do this together in Fusion. But before we do that, I want to set up our color management. This is something that we're going to talk about a little bit more in the color page. But for now, I want you to do this with me. Go to the media pool, into the Fusion folder, right click on our Fusion timeline. We can go to Timelines, Timeline Settings. This is going to allow us to change the settings for our timeline. And let's uncheck Use Project Settings like this. And this is where you can change the timeline resolution and all kinds of stuff here. But we're going to go over to where it says Color. And here where it says Color Science, I'm going to switch this from DaVinci YRGB to DaVinci YRGB Color Managed like this. I'm also going to uncheck Automatic Color Management and take this color processing mode and switch this to HDR DaVinci Wide Gamut Intermediate. Now, you probably don't know what any of that means. We'll talk about that in a little while. But for now, set your settings for your timeline to this and then hit OK. And that made our viewer flash a little bit. And that's because what it's doing is putting this timeline into color managed mode, which for our purposes means that it's going to do a little bit of color correction to make our log footage not look like log footage. If you're like, what the heck is log footage? We'll talk about it in a little bit. But for now, what we're going to do is shift select all of these clips right here. So our alien plate, our ship plate, our house exterior, and our wide shot. And we're going to right click and go down to Input Color Space and select Blackmagic Design, Pocket 4K Film Gen 4 right here. That's what we want. Boom. This makes our colors look a little bit better because we're doing a little bit of initial color correction to our footage. And that's just going to make everything in Fusion work a little bit nicer. Like I said, we'll talk about this a little bit more when we get to the color page. For now, your clip should look like this, and we're going to add some smoke to the sky here. The first thing that we need to do is get some smoke. And you can do this a lot of different ways. You could get an image of a smoke trail. You could render one in 3D. You do all different kinds of things. What we can actually do here in Fusion is generate something that looks sort of like smoke. Using this little icon right here, I can click this and drag this in. This is called fast noise. And to take a look at what this does, remember I said we're going to talk about these two viewers here. I'll make sure to select this button right here. And that's going to make sure that we have two viewers. You can kind of switch between one viewer and two viewers with this button. There's similar buttons on the other pages. They're kind of like this actually. But if we have two viewers here, I can take this fast noise node and I can just drag it into my left viewer, and that'll let me see what this fast noise node is doing. So this fast noise node is creating this kind of foggy cloud texture. And if I select this and go to my inspector, I can push up the detail, I can push up the scale, and that's going to make these clouds. So we're going to make some kind of clouds here. We'll just, I don't know, make it about that size. Sure. You don't have to get it exactly like me. I'll go ahead and close our media pool too, so we have a little room. And we're going to change the color of this fog. We're going to go to the color tab of our fast noise here. And here for color 2, instead of white, I'm going to take the blue, green, and red down so that it's black. So it's basically just black clouds over transparent. You can see it's transparent by the checkerboard here. And so this is just black clouds over transparent. And now we're going to put these black clouds over this image. Now, you might think that what you do is you run this image through this image because you're applying these black clouds to it. Really what's happening here is we have one image, which is our original footage, and then we have this other image, which is our fast noise, and we're going to combine them together. To combine two images together, you use a very specific node called a merge node. Here's how it works. This little icon right here, if we grab this and drag this down, this will make a merge node. And it has three inputs, yellow, green, and blue. The yellow input is the background for our merge. So we can take the output of this media in 1, I can actually just click on this line once to get rid of it. I can take the output, which is that little gray square, drag this into merge 1 like this, into the yellow input. And then I can take my fast noise and put that into the green input, and take the output of my merge and put that into my media out. And I'll make sure to drag this media out to the right viewer so that I'm always looking at that media out. And now we have our black clouds over our image. So we put two images together, our black clouds and our original image. And don't miss this. Either of these viewers can view any node at any time. All you have to do is take the node and drag it into the viewer. You can also hit 1 or 2 on the keyboard with the node selected to load it into either viewer. What I like to do is have my media out on the right viewer and then just view various nodes on the left viewer so that I can see what's happening with little pieces of my composite. A lot like you would grab a piece of media here on the source viewer and you'd have your timeline on the right viewer. Kind of the same thing. We look at pieces of it on the left viewer and our media out on the right viewer. So now, just as a reminder, if we go over to the edit page, this clip is going to have those black clouds over it. That's really cool. We can select this fast noise and adjust the detail and the scale and everything of those clouds. We can adjust the seethe to kind of move these around. And that's going to give us those dark clouds. But we don't want those clouds to be everywhere. We only want it to be kind of in one place. We really want this to be kind of a streak across the sky like this. So what we can do is mask this fast noise and limit this image so that it only exists right there inside of this little shape. So we can do that with a mask node. So there are quite a few little mask nodes here in Fusion, and we can grab whichever one of these that we think is the best. There are a few. There's a ellipse node, which draws a circle, a rectangle, which draws a rectangle. This is pretty intense stuff. We also have a polygon node, which lets you kind of use a pen tool to make a custom shape. And that's the kind of shape that we're actually going to use. So let's grab a polygon node. That's this middle one here. Drag this down. And then we're going to make the shape. I'm going to just kind of make like a triangle thing here that's sort of going off the screen like that. There we go. It's actually kind of a rectangle, I guess, but it's really skewed. And so the idea here is that we're only highlighting this part of the image. And this is where we want to draw those clouds. So we can take the output of this and we can plug this output into the blue input of this fast noise. And what's going to happen, check this out. Take this, plug this into the blue input. That's going to limit this fast noise to only exist inside of that shape. So now if I double click off of this, we can see that those clouds are only inside of that shape. You can think of a mask this way. If a node has one job, like this fast noise has a job of making these black clouds, you can use a polygon to draw a shape and say, whatever your job is, node, I want you to only do that job right here inside of this shape. When we connect this to the blue input, we're limiting it to that shape. If we had a different shape, like a ellipse, and we put that into the blue input, it would limit it to that ellipse. All right? So it's sort of like we're cropping what that node is doing. So we put that into the fast noise, and then let's view our media out. And now it looks like the edges here are just too sharp. So something we could do would be to select our polygon and go over here to soft edge. We could push that soft edge up. We could really soften this and look. Now we have just kind of a trail of dark clouds here. And it doesn't look like we cut that out with a mask. It just looks like a nice little trail. So that works really, really well. So if you can do this, this is like your first visual effect inside of Fusion. What an exciting thing. And so now when we play this back, we have the bikes going across and we have the smoke trail. The other thing we can do is we can go to our fast noise and we can push up the seethe rate. I can push that up a little bit. I'm going to push it up way too much right now just so we can see what's going on. But this seethe rate will animate those clouds just continuously. So when we play this back, we can see how the clouds are kind of like wobbling, right? We don't want it this fast, so I can take this down a lot. I just want it just ever so slight, just so it has a little bit of movement, just so it isn't totally static. Yeah, maybe something like that, where it's just almost imperceptibly moving, so it doesn't look like just a still. There we go. Now we have this smoke trail from the crashed UFO going across the screen. Oh, I love that. And anytime we want, we can change this polygon and kind of change this shape to change where our smoke trail goes. Now, the one thing that you'll run into when you're adjusting a polygon mask is that it automatically animates. And so if we were to look at this and play this back, see how that mask is animating? When I go back and forth, animates. That's because I have a keyframe on this mask, that first frame where I drew this mask. And when I changed it just now, we were actually at a different place in time. So if we're doing this on purpose, it's great. But one thing that I always do with masks that I'm not going to animate is I go over here to the inspector, I select the polygon mask, go over here to the inspector, right here where it says right click here for shape animation, I right click and then go down and I say remove polygon 1 polyline, like that, boop, like that. What that's going to do is get rid of the keyframes, which are the little white ticks that were on here. It's not going to have a red keyframe diamond. It's just going to stay where it's at. And no matter where I change this mask, it's always going to stay like that because there is no animation. All right. That has got me in trouble so many times. That's why I'm telling you about it now. If your mask is animating, it's because it's automatically keyframed. You got to right click and get rid of that animation. So now we have a little bit of movement there. We have a nice looking shot. We have this kind of streak across the sky. How do we get it back into the edit page? I'm testing you. All you do is switch back to the edit page and boom, there it is. That's our finished visual effects shot. Isn't that awesome? We did that all right here inside of Resolve, inside of Fusion. Oh, beautiful. Let's go to our first shot, this house exterior. I'll switch back over to Fusion. Again, I'm moving this around by clicking and dragging with my middle button on my mouse, my scroll wheel button. And you can kind of move this around. Same thing here for the viewers. But now what we're going to do is we're going to turn this into a nighttime shot. So this is going to involve a couple things. One is we need to make it darker. Two is we need to make it blue. Three is we need to kind of keep some of the light that's here so that it doesn't look weird and it doesn't look too dark. So we're darkening everything except for these lights, basically. How do we do this? In Fusion, we can run an image through an effect. So for instance, this color correction effect, we could grab this and drag that down like this. And we could select the color corrector. Maybe we'll push this a little bit blue. Maybe push up a little bit of contrast. Maybe take this gain down. That's just the brightness of the brightest parts of the image. Maybe something like that. Now we're really darkening that kind of thing down. That's one way that we could do it. We could also use a curves node. And this, if we uncheck alpha, we can add a little bit of a contrast curve like that. But the tool that I really like for this kind of thing inside of Fusion is our brightness and contrast node. That's this node right here. We can take this and drag this in. I like this because it's a little bit more simple. I could just take maybe this gamma down, push this down like this, take the saturation down a little bit. And now we're just making this a little bit darker like that. Yes. And we're pretty quickly going to figure out that the color here is going to be too dark here and not dark enough up here. So what we're going to have to do is do this in a couple different parts. So I could take this brightness and contrast down, and I'm just going to pick one of these. I can either pick the sky or I can pick the ground and the building and stuff. So I'll just pick the building first. Maybe just going to take that down, something like that. Great. The other thing I want to do is clip black and clip white. This makes sure that no craziness happens with our colors. Sometimes you can make things that are blacker than black or whiter than white, and that kind of messes with things and gives you weird results sometimes. So you always want to clip that black and white unless you're doing something really specific. I also tend to click pre-divide, post-multiply. This makes sure that if you're color correcting something that has transparency, like an alpha channel, maybe it's a logo or something like that that has transparency, that when you adjust the colors, that it only adjusts the colors on the pixels that aren't transparent. Sometimes you can color correct transparent pixels and weird stuff happens too. So basically you tick all of these boxes to make sure weird stuff doesn't happen, okay? So we have this a little bit darker. Let's darken the sky too. So what I could do would just be to copy and paste this just by hitting Control C, double clicking, hitting Control V. And let's do another version of this. Let's take our original footage and we'll run it through brightness and contrast like this. Take this brightness and contrast, make sure we're looking at that, just dragging it up here. And then we'll clip black and white, pre-divide, post-multiply. And this time, we're going to take this gain down a lot. We're going to take the gamma down a lot. We're just going to make that sky really dark. All I care about is the sky. Yeah, something like that. Really, really dark. Everything else is way too dark, but we just care about the sky. Also going to take the saturation down a lot, maybe like all the way. Okay. So we have a separate color correction for the sky, and we have a separate color correction for the bottom part. Now we're going to combine these images together. So we can do that with a merge node that always combines images like this. So we're going to put this merge node here, and let's look at our media out. So now we have this color correction for the building. And now we're going to take the output of the color correction for our sky and put that into the foreground of this merge. And look what happens. We only see the foreground. Okay. So here's the background before the merge. Here's the foreground before the merge. And here is the composite after the merge. But we only wanted it for the sky. Well, the thing is, we didn't tell Fusion that we only want it on the sky. So what we got to do is use a mask, just like we did with the black smoke. And so I could take something like this polygon mask, and I'll drag this down. And this time I'm going to mask the merge, because this merge is doing one job. What it's doing is it's putting the foreground over the background. And what I want to do is tell it to only put that foreground over the background inside of this shape that I'm going to draw. So actually, let's go ahead and draw this shape first. And I'm just going to start kind of up here. I'm going to select this polygon and start up here and just kind of draw around where I want the sky. There we go, something like that. Then I can connect this polygon to the blue input of that merge. And look what happens. We have the sky color grade over the building color grade. And again, just like we did with the black smoke, I can take this polygon and push up the soft edge like this. I'll just push it up a little bit. Maybe bring this down. Soften that edge a lot. And we're just going to kind of move that around to where we get a good solid combination of both of those colors. Might want to make this even softer. And now we can select this merge and turn off on and off this switch, and we can see the difference. Right? Makes a big, big difference. I also want to take this polygon and maybe move it up a little bit, just so we're not softening the edges. We'll take it way off the canvas here, like this. And now we have essentially two color corrected images combined together. We have our sky grade and our building grade, and we're putting those together in two different layers. Now, let's take this whole thing and turn it blue. I'm going to take this media out. And we're going to take some color correction. We're going to run this through our color corrector, and we're going to push this a little bit blue. All right. Let's make sure we're looking at our media out. Oh yeah, that's too blue. We just want it a little bit blue. Something like that. Maybe take the saturation down a little bit. And we can really start to dial this in and make this look like it's nighttime. Okay. Now, a lot of this is stuff that we could probably do in the color page, honestly. But I like this exercise because it gets us used to working with nodes. And this will also help us with color here in a little bit. If anytime you get lost in a node tree, you can just grab the nodes on the left and just start dragging each one into this left viewer and kind of think about it in steps. The first step we have is our original footage. Then we're adjusting it with the brightness and contrast. Then we're taking our original footage again, and we're adjusting it differently with our brightness and contrast. So we have two versions of this color corrected image, one that's sort of dark and one that's really dark. Then we're merging our really dark one over our sort of dark one, but we're only doing it inside of this polygon mask. So just on the sky part. Then we're taking that whole thing and we're color correcting it to tint it blue. And that gives us our composite, where we have multiple images put over one another. Now, we could go even crazier here. What really sells a day for night shot is when we have these bright yellow lights kind of lighting things up. And so we could copy this media in again. I'll just copy and paste. Now we have our original footage again, and we can put this over our blue kind of nighttime shot like this. We can do that by adding a merge node and putting it into the foreground. And if we look at our media out, we have our original footage with nothing over it, right? But we're only going to merge this where the bright parts are here. So we could do something like grab a ellipse and plug this into the blue input here. And I can make this ellipse really small and move it like this, and then soften that edge like this. See what we're doing here? Soften that edge. And now we have that yellow that looks like the light is emitting light, right? We could copy and paste this ellipse mask. I'll just drag this down hit Control C, and then Control V. It's going to copy and paste that, and it's going to run that mask through that mask, which is basically just going to combine them. So I can add another mask over here. Great. I'll move these down. Grab this one, copy, paste, Control C, Control V. Move this over here for this one. Maybe make this one a little bit bigger. So we have a little bit more light over here. Something like that. And now we have that light showing up here, and it looks more like a night shot. Isn't that cool? This is the kind of stuff that you can do in Fusion really easily. Maybe we want to add some fog to this. Remember, we kind of know how to do that already. We can take this second icon, which again makes fog. It's a fast noise. Push up the detail maybe push down the scale a little bit. And let's merge this over everything. By the way, there is a quick trick to merge something over something else. So you don't have to grab this merge node and then plug it into the foreground. What you can do is just take the output, this little gray square, and drop it on the white square here, like this, boop, and that will automatically put it in the foreground of a merge right after this node. So now we have our fast noise over everything, just like we did before. And again, we can grab a polygon, and let's just kind of make a little mask around here. I'm just clicking and dragging to make it soft, pushing this soft edge, selecting these, and just messing with this shape so that I can get a little bit of fog. Isn't that cool? Now, this fog is a little bit strong, so I want to take this merge and I'm going to turn down the opacity of the foreground. I'm going to make it more transparent. With this merge, I can take this blend and push the blend down like this. And so I can kind of fade this on or off. So if I want to split the difference, I could take this blend to 0.5. And I'll actually just push this in just a little bit, maybe like 20% or so. And now we have this fog in our shot, and it really adds a lot. Makes it feel like it's a nighttime kind of foggy shot. Oh, look at that big difference. Here's our original footage, and here's after. That's a big, big difference. Isn't that cool? The other thing we can do with this fog is we can grab this fast noise, and look at this. We can move the center of the fast noise around, and that just kind of moves this texture. And we can start this here at the beginning of our shot. And just like we can animate stuff in the edit page, we can animate stuff here in the Fusion page. So I could take this fog, I'll take the center and just start it there. You can really start it anywhere. It's just going to be easier to animate from one side to the other rather than starting here and then animating it off screen. We're going to start right here, and I'm going to animate the center. I'll just click this keyframe diamond. And then at the end, we'll move this over a little bit. I don't know, maybe halfway or so. So now as we play this back, we see the fog kind of rolling across a little bit. Oh, that's so cool. We can also adjust the seethe rate and push that up just a little bit so that this kind of changes over time. Maybe a little bit stronger than that. There we go. So now we have the fog kind of rolling in across this. I'm going to turn this up so you can see it a little better. We have that fog going from left to right. I always want to keep things subtle, but it's a little bit easier to see on the recording here. So let's just push this up just so it's nice and subtle. A little bit of fog. Oh, it's so cool. Movie magic in Fusion. And remember, once we have this all built out, we can switch to the edit page, and look, here's our shot in the edit page. We don't have to render it. We don't have to do anything crazy. It's just already in the timeline. Isn't that awesome? Now, here's kind of one of the dirty little secrets about Fusion. You kind of take one look at this node tree and you're like, gosh, that's a lot of little boxes and everything. But it wasn't that hard when we were building it, because we're just building it one step at a time. Okay. And really, we're just starting with this media in, and we're color correcting it, which is one step. We're starting with this media in again, and we're color correcting it. We're putting it together. We're masking where it goes together. We're color correcting it blue. We're taking the original footage again, and we're just putting it over everything, but only within these masks. So only where it's white right here. Then we're taking some fast noise, and we're putting it over our shot, but only inside of a mask that's right down here. And so it's pretty simple, straightforward stuff. It's just lined out with every single step that we did. So that's the bad thing and the good thing about nodes. The bad thing is that it looks kind of intimidating, but the good thing is that you can always go back to any of these steps. All these steps are modular. And so you can go back and say, actually, I don't know if I like the correction here. I can go to my brightness and contrast here and adjust that correction on the top part of our screen. And I can see what it looks like even after it flows through all of this stuff. Fusion is the very most powerful page in Resolve. You can do absolutely anything with it. Fusion is what we dive super deep into in our courses. We have a course called Intro to Fusion that breaks down all of this in even more detail and helps you truly understand how Fusion works, and then puts you through the paces to transform you from somebody who doesn't really know anything about Fusion to somebody who can confidently use Fusion for visual effects and for graphics and for creating awesome things in Resolve. Now, let's go back to our edit page, and we have these two shots, and we want to combine them. Now, to combine a couple of shots in Fusion, you can do this a couple different ways. One thing I could do would be to just be over this bottom one and switch to Fusion. And then I could go to my media pool and grab this other shot and drag this in like this. And that's going to make another media in. And so we have this footage and this footage. And then I can combine them just like I combined the same footage over itself. The other way that we can do it, that's sometimes a little bit more convenient, I'll just right click on this and reset our Fusion composition, is I can stack these on the timeline, select both of them, right click and go to New Fusion Clip. What that will do is combine these together, and then I can switch into Fusion and I'll have both of those clips synced up and lined up with each other here in the Fusion page. So here's one of them and here's the other. It really doesn't matter which one you use. It's kind of dependent on what you feel like doing. One advantage that you have with working with just one piece of footage, though, is that when you switch into Fusion, it's going to open it up in its native resolution. Okay, so this is 1920 by 800. If you make a Fusion clip, it's going to make a version of this that's actually the timeline resolution, which may or may not be an issue. In this case, it's not really that much of an issue, other than we have a little bit of empty space at the top and bottom because this footage is widescreen and our timeline settings are HD. But I like to do it this way. Grab this original footage, and then I'll just grab this other footage from the media pool and drag it in. And I can rename these nodes by selecting the node and hitting F2. So we'll call this alien MI for media in. This one's going to be called ship underscore MI for media in. So we have our alien and we have our ship. And now it's our job to combine these together so it looks like this alien is inside of the ship. Now, this might actually be easier if we put this alien in the background and the ship in the foreground. So let's go ahead and disconnect our ship, and we're going to start with our alien. We're going to take him and put him into the media out. This is going to be our original footage. In this case, they're both the same resolution, so it doesn't really matter. And then we're going to take our ship and we're going to put this over our alien like that. So we're just going to be able to see the ship and the aliens underneath it. So if we move this over, we can see the aliens underneath it. But the first thing we have to do is cut a hole in our clip of the ship. In visual effects land, this would be called a plate. Think of if you're stacking two plates in the kitchen, your foreground plate is on top of your background plate.